Yo, what's up guys, it's TBAG, and as you all know, Battlefield 5 Firestorm has just been released. I've been playing for a little bit, got a couple of wins here and there, and I'm really having a good time so far. We are not gonna talk about the looting system though, because let's be honest, right now, it's absolutely not very good. What we are gonna talk about though in this video are 10 tips and tricks for Firestorm, obviously, to get that easy win. Firestorm is different from other Battle Royale games, not by a whole lot, but there are some things you need to know in order to increase your chances of getting that chicken dinner. I mean that victory royale. I mean becoming the champion. I mean getting that V for victory. So without any further ado, here are 10 tips and tricks for Battlefield 5 Firestorm. Now some of these may seem a little bit generic, but that's because I expect a lot of new players to either Firestorm or the whole Battle Royale genre in itself, because I think a lot of people want to try out a Battle Royale game but with a more immersive experience, which Firestorm definitely is. For tip number 1, when starting a game of Firestorm, you are greeted with the character selection menu. As you can see, in squads there are 4 people. One who takes things way too seriously, the other who looks like he's about to molest some kids, and the third guy who's like, "Come on, fight me, I'll f you up, fam." And then there's you, who's like, "Meh, who cares." In this menu you can choose your character, for example the scout or assault player, which are the same characters from your company menu. Now this in itself doesn't offer anything unique in game. It doesn't matter which class you choose to spawn as, because everybody has the same abilities. However, I can recommend you one thing. In most cases, your character's faction is British by default. Make sure to switch to the German faction, because often the German characters have the type of grey camo, which makes them blend in better with the environment, especially in urban areas and in the snow. If you want to know exactly what I'm talking about, I recommend you go and watch my most recent video. For tip number 2, hugging the storm. Don't. A lot of people, and especially new players, tend to think that staying close to the edge of the circle brings them an advantage. And while yes, in some cases that might be the case, especially towards the last 2 circles, in Firestorm I would not recommend it. For starters, if you are standing really close to the Firestorm, your whole vision gets blurry and your screen gets this red tint, which looks pretty cool, but it makes things way harder to see. Also, in a game like Battlefield 5, where you can't build like in a game, for example like Fortnite, people tend to go in a defensive position. So if someone catches you running from the storm into the safe zone, there is not much you can do. On top of that, don't forget that the storm destroys pretty much everything in its path. So if you are caught in the storm while inside a building, the roof of that building will fall down on top of your head, like in the base game multiplayer of Battlefield 5, giving you additional damage next to the damage you already take from the storm itself, so be careful. One trick I can give you though, a lot of people think that as soon as the storm touches a building, the whole thing comes crashing down. That's actually not the case. The building gets destroyed exactly where the storm is touching it. So if the storm ends up halfway through the building, you don't need to leave the building, as the part that is still inside the circle remains intact. You can see it in this clip right here. Tip number 3. In solos, do not go for tanks. You might have better luck with squads, but with solos, it is definitely not worth the risk. And here's why. First of all, you probably already know that in order to find a tank, you need to open this big ass vault. To open this vault, you are extremely exposed, because you need to turn not 1, but 2 valves to open these doors. It takes a really long time to open just 1, let alone 2. During the opening animation you cannot look around you and you can't use your weapon, so as soon as somebody sees you, it's pretty much game over. And speaking of which, expect a lot of company as soon as you touch those valves, because the whole area will be alerted of your position. An alarm will sound for the entire duration of you opening the doors, I believe, so it's really risky. Like I said, it is a different story in squads, because while opening the doors, your squad mates can actually cover you. Now you might think, TBAG, it's a risk for sure, but the reward is a freaking tank. Let me tell you this, you have gone through all that trouble to get, for example, a light tank. Guess what? It only takes like 3 Panzerfaust to destroy it, as you can see in this clip right here. And a soldier can carry up to like, I think 6 Panzerfaust. So an infantry versus a tank is a losing battle, at least in Firestorm. And don't forget, tanks in Battlefield 5 generally are pretty clunky overall. So in my opinion, you are in a big disadvantage while in a tank. It may be different when playing squads like I said, but in solos you are just a sitting duck. However, if you do decide to go for a tank, here is a little trick. I believe, and I'm not entirely sure, I believe you do not have to open the vault doors all the way, just enough to squeeze the tank through. Try it out. Tip number 4. Know your weapons. There are, I believe, 16 different weapons in Firestorm and a bunch more different gadgets. These weapons can come in different rarities. You have green, which is common, blue is a bit more rare, and epic, which is pink. But the difference within these tiers may seem a little confusing at first. You might notice a difference in optics when switching between these rarities, but there is much more to it. For example, some weapons have an extended mags attachment, some even have specific specialization, but it is important to know which weapon has which upgrade before picking them up. For example, there are 2 bolt action rifles in Firestorm, the Lee Enfield and the Kar 98. Now you might think the epic rarity of these rifles must come with a scope, right? Well, yes, that is the case for the Kar 98, but not for the Lee Enfield. There is a dedicated section on the Battlefield Wiki page that specifies exactly what each tier means for each weapon, so I recommend you go and check that out and kinda keep that in mind next time you deploy in Firestorm. I will include a link to that in the description below. Tip number 5. Use downed enemies as bait. In Firestorm there are no second chances, so when you are downed you do not want to get thirsted and just watch your squad mates go on without you. So for a lot of people, when their squad mate is down, they often rush to that location, and instead of killing the downed enemy, use that opportunity to figure out where the other players are. As you can see, I'm not really following my own advice in this clip, but you get the point. Tip number 6. Know how to manage your inventory. This might be the most important one in order to keep the flow within Firestorm. So the inventory system in Battlefield 5 Firestorm works mostly the same as other BR shooters. But there are some things that seem a bit off at first, but you can easily get used to it. It just takes a little bit of time, especially on console. A lot of people pick up the first weapon they see along with its ammo, as they should. But as you loot for better gear, you might still have a lot of ammo in your inventory that was used for a weapon that you may not longer have. Now imagine coming in clutch and you want to pick up that extra sniper ammo. It may not be possible because of the excessive ammo you have in your inventory. Try and drop the ammo that you will not use before looting. It will keep you from being exposed for too long, and it makes the already frustrating looting system a bit more manageable. Tip number 7. Know when to pick a fight, especially at the very beginning. Like many BR games, before you find some gear you are solely equipped with a knife. Don't even try to take out an enemy with this unless you are 100% sure they won't find a weapon, otherwise this will happen. It's better to just leave and come back with actual weapons. Tip number 8. Don't be afraid to use your gadgets, especially when it comes to explosives. Plenty of players, including me, are very conservative when it comes to wasting, quote unquote, wasting ammo and gadgets. However, remember, this is Battlefield. Almost all buildings are destructible. Someone hiding in a building and you don't have a direct line of sight, just blast through the walls with a Panzerfaust, and if you really care for the ammo, chances are the guy that you are fighting probably also has a bunch of Panzerfaust, so keep that in mind. Just use your gadgets. For example, the flare is very useful. Shoot it up in the air and the enemy location will be revealed on your minimap, giving you a huge advantage. Tip number 9. Be very careful when moving. I have the perfect clip to demonstrate what I mean. As you can see here, I have like 7 kills, decent round, and I made it to the final 2. It's between me and some other guy. As most of you know, visibility in Battlefield 5 is kinda hit or miss. If you don't know what I'm talking about, like I said earlier, I suggest you go watch my latest video. But anyway, basically in Battlefield 5 you can very easily blend in with the environment as long as you do not move. In this clip, I knew the approximate location of the last guy, so I moved in closer. However, he wasn't moving at all, so for me it was very hard to detect him, but because I was moving, he instantly saw me and won the game, so keep that in mind. And finally, for tip number 10, flank, flank, and flank. I know it seems obvious for a first-person shooter, but remember, Battlefield 5 offers you a whole lot of mobility. You can jump through windows, you can do parkour, not really, but you can reposition fairly quickly. In a firefight, don't be afraid to try out multiple flanks. Your enemy is often very focused on 1 or 2 angles, but there are way more than you think. Try and get a height advantage. If you have an MG42, try to get a bit of a distance and use your bipod. If you have a self-loading rifle, again create some distance, you know, play to your strength. A lot of people forget this and they often just want to take the fight head on, even when they are outdamaged. And those are 10 tips to help you secure the V for victory in Battlefield 5 Firestorm, even though it sounds really lame. I hope it helps, especially for those new players out there. If you know any more tips that might be useful, let me know down below in the comments. Please leave a like if you enjoyed watching, subscribe for more videos. I have a lot of cool things to come regarding Firestorm, and with that being said, I see you guys next time.